Okay, this show is so important. I'm just saying it's like so important because it's like I'm talking about the big picture. The big picture is enormous. It's just so big. Comfortable here is gonna take a while. In order to understand a cosmology that makes perfect sense, well, you're gonna have to throw out all the other ideas. Well, you don't have to throw them all out. Just well, you have to take the heliocentric model and evolution and kind of well, you don't have to throw it all the way out, but just well, it's important for if people that want to understand the cosmology that I'm constructing from the ground up here, Dr. Bass cosmology. But it's all of our cosmology. I'm not being selfish about it, but whether or not everybody accepts it as being reality, I'm going to present enough evidence to where you should at least consider it. Um, Hi, Angela, baby Carson. Nice to see you. Um, so first of all, you have to sort of get on my wavelength here, where I'm like, as much as I don't enjoy calling myself a flat earther, but I'm this is what I'm talking about. Like the Earth is what it is, how it presents itself to us. Sure, there are things about the Earth that seem a certain way, but then on the other hand, it might end up being a completely different way. And sometimes nature, you know, it's easy to fool us in a sense, but that's not what I'm getting at here. What I'm saying is like Earth is a level plane for all intents and purposes. Like for whatever, how we're going to interact with the Earth, we're interacting with a level plane. And you can conceptualize this by just imagining simple ideas such as, well, Earth is like the way we deal with Earth. Here we have property. We have Earth. Think of Earth as one big piece of property. You know what I'm saying? Like when you buy a piece of property, you mark the property line, and you have all the property that's within that property line. Or like if someone has a country, they have a perimeter around it. It's a specific measurement, and there's a specific area within that perimeter that's that you've claimed or whatever. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be about like that's not the part that's important. What's important that I'm talking about is that a bigger piece of property is going to have a bigger perimeter around the outside of it. It's obvious, like I say before, and I've said many times. That's where I stake my flag right there. This is where I think reality is, and it's not. There's no exceptions to this. Like a bigger piece of property has a bigger property line around it. That's obvious. Nobody's really going to try to argue with me about that. It just seems like such obvious shit. But here's where I take it a step further. I'm saying there's no exception to that. It's a simple fact that everybody agrees with. But for me, I'm going to go even further. I'm going to say there's no exception to this. It's just a fact. And so the bigger the property, the bigger the perimeter around it, and it just goes like that indefinitely, or until there's no more property to encompass. If that, which I do believe there is limits in this realm that we live in. I can get into that. There's a lot of different little tangents and side shoots I can go off, shoots and ladders, and I'm going to try to keep this part relatively simple and concise. What I'm saying is that the expanse of Earth that we exist in, it widens in every direction. It widens, and that's just what happens. Like if you were to if you're just gonna try to visualize what I'm getting at here, or just visualize Earth is this expanse, and so it just gets wider and wider the more area there is to encompass. That perimeter just grows and grows and grows and grows. Personally, I believe that you could reach a point where your perimeter is encompassing the entire known world. I mean, I think it's possible to do such a thing. if anyone felt compelled to, and all other variables aside, I think that's something that's not crazy to assume or to just go and do. So in that case, Earth can't be a globe, because on a globe Earth, let's say you're making a circumference around a certain piece of property, that circumference, and then you just it just keeps widening, you know. On a globe Earth, that circumference can only get as wide as the median, the halfway point. And at that point, that's the widest circumference you're going to get. After that, after you say you're buying property, after that your perimeter is shrinking, and it's not a perimeter around the property that you own anymore. It's a property around it's a perimeter around the property that you don't own yet. So now you're working with, so now everything changes. Like after you've hit that median point, the circumference of, on Earth with the globe measurements that we have, it's going to be like roughly 24,000 miles around in circumference. That's half the Earth that you've got in your perimeter, right? Your circumference. And then if you keep moving past that, you know, if you keep trying to acquire more property, you know, now your perimeter goes from being a perimeter that was circling your property. Now at this point, your perimeter that you're making is circling property you don't own. So the whole thing switches after you own more than half of the Earth. Now your perimeter is going around property that you don't own. Right? Does that make sense so far? Do you get it? Upward vector, that's another good rabbit hole to go down on. And let's go down on that upward vector. It sounds dirty. I'm at the point where I can't really argue against that anymore. As crazy as it seems, I've just been shown enough stuff. I still have a hard time putting it into my own words. At the same time, it seems like it's almost irrelevant information in the sense that there's nothing we can do or achieve, I mean, other than debunking the globe, which is definitely important. But I'm still trying to figure out a way to apply that knowledge. I mean, there's evidence that it's just so hard for me to even put it into words now, but it's like the idea that we're just sitting still, and when we're falling. I mean, I used to argue against it, be like, well, if I was weightless, then I wouldn't be falling. It's a rabbit hole we can go down, but I'm trying to get to something here that we'll touch on that later. As far as, you know, what God had to do to create this situation that we're in here, that is kind of beyond me. Like, he created a situation where we're experiencing what appears to be a level stationary plane. Now, granted, like, what's interesting is, without going too far down that rabbit hole, is like, if we were in a situation where we were rising up faster than if we're getting pushed up, you know, we weigh more at that point. Our weight changes. It's fucked up. So you could take that thought and run with it and be like, well then, so without any upward pressure, then we don't weigh anything. You know, if you just take that thought and you run with it. Anyways, I was getting at something different here, but I do want to give the upward vector people a shout out, in the sense that I salute their they got a lot of balls to like fucking to blow against the wind, and to that degree, and to actually have something to support there, because it seems like such an outrageous claim, you know. Like, it's impossible to believe at first, you know, but if you really give it a chance, you start to realize there's something there. But anyways, I'm getting at something else here. I'd like to talk about that more, though. But for what it's worth, we're all experiencing what seems to be a stationary level plane, and without getting too deep into it, too lost in the weeds or whatever. Maybe not lost in the weeds without having to get too technical. Like we have this reality we're existing in, and our lives, our souls are like, I believe our souls, I think, our spirit, I think it's a real thing. I think it's energy. I feel like that's like a good way to sort of summarize what our spirit, our soul is. It's like energy, it's light. Maybe that sounds kind of woo-woo or something, but I think there's even science right now that actually has claimed that they can see the light. It's like a visible light, the spirit, the soul. That could just be some misinformation that came my way, but like I like it nonetheless because I think it helps tie my whole premise together here, which I've been designing this cosmology. I've just been constructing it based on observations and history and just the whole ball of wax, everything that we've all got to work with, all that information we got to work with. Let's say we had to build our own cosmology and just start from the ground up. That's what I'm doing, and I want my cosmology to cover, like to not have any like huge gaping like questions unanswered. I want it to cover everything if possible, and we'll start with the fact that I think our lives, our souls are significant and that it's light, it's energy. And I believe that to be a fact. And if our souls and our lives, if it's light, if it's energy, then that has to be, it's being drawn from somewhere, a source, a source of energy, the source of light. Like, what would that be? Where would that be? I wonder. Well, I would point at it, but it's not here right now. It'll be back tomorrow. So let's say we're all drawing our souls from the sun. Every spark of life that is spawned here on Earth is drawn from the sun, the source. And every time a new soul is spawned here on Earth, there's a little teeny black spot on the sun right where that soul was drawn from. Pluck! And there's a little black spot on the sun right where the soul was spawned. And it comes down here and bing! And it doesn't make noises like that, but it can in my demonstration. And so those black holes on the sun, those little black spots, well, they fill back. I mean, it's like they don't stay there. I mean, because I believe the souls that are spawning down here, when you live your life, there's a purpose, there's a meaning to this life, and you have free will, and you can do what you choose to do. I believe in free will. I think it's a real thing. And so based on how you decided to live your life, I think there's two choices. Two final, like, you either go to heaven or you go back into the lake of fire or the sun or whatever. And the source, the light at the end of the tunnel. And if you go to heaven, well, you become a star up in the heavens, because those stars are small. They're like little pieces of source. It's like small lights, energy. And they're not, the sun is like this, the source, but those little stars up there, they're not source, they're just parts of the source. They went to heaven. And so it takes a while for the source to be like fully, like if all the souls that are spawned down here on Earth, if they eventually all go to heaven, then there's no more source left, because there's a finite amount of souls that can be spawned out of the sun, because like I said, when a new soul is spawned, there's a little black spot on the sun right where that soul used to be. And the reason why those black spots get filled back in is because not everybody's going to heaven. Like, I'd say like hardly anybody's going up there these days, but I think there's still some, but it's like, I think there was a time, I think all the stars that are up in heaven, it's about a whole sun's worth of souls. All those stars up there, there was a whole sun that got spent. It was a whole sun's worth of souls that got spent. They all went to heaven. I mean, it took a while. There's a lot of stuff that's gone on here on this earth plane. And I think we're on our second sun. I can tell that because of all the souls that I see up there in heaven. Those all came from his sun. There's a lot of them. And I think we're on our second sun, and I think the old sun is still up there floating around. It's just not, it doesn't have there's no source of energy left in it, but it's still up there floating around. I mean, it looks kind of spent, like its original purpose is kind of used up, but it's still up there floating around, the husk of a former sun. It's beautiful, and it's made of the stuff that suns are made of, but it's just not, it doesn't contain its source, energy in it anymore. And so it can charge up with the sunlight. The sunlight shines on it, the new sun that we have, that we're drawing our souls from now. When the old sun is whatever reference it is, the new sun can charge it up, and it makes it glow, like it absorbs sunlight. It's like a sponge for light, but it's not filling it with new souls or anything. It's just charging it up with light. So it glows, when the sun's gone at night, the old sun comes through and it's glowing from wherever the sun was shining on it, And it's easy to spot an old sun, really, because the sun, when it's full of its source, it's hot. It's like this lake of fire. It's bubbling, and like it's just this crazy stuff that we don't quite understand, even though we're it. We draw our energy from that, but it's made of whatever suns are made of, But when all the souls have been pulled out of it, they've all gone to heaven. There's no more souls going back to recycle and try again. It's just they've all gone to heaven. It's a beautiful thing, all those stars up there. But the thing is, once the sun goes dark, it's forced to cool off really quick. And it solidifies. And it's easy to spot an old sun because of all the bubbles that were popping and boiling on this thing, it solidifies, so you can see all these craters where the bubbles used to be, from all the bubbling and boiling. So it's covered with craters from where it was boiling before it cooled. And we call it the moon. It's still up there floating around, But all the souls that were in that sun have all gone to heaven. They're all up there, all those stars that we see. Now there's, people on Earth right now whose ancient ancestors actually recall a time when there was no moon. And that's because they were drawing their souls from what we call the moon. It was before the sun had been used up, all the souls had gone to heaven. Their tribe was drawing from the old sun, and that's why they remember a time without the moon, because there wasn't a used up sun floating around. That was the first sun that came through. And the thing is, when a sun gets used up and there's no more souls left to pull out of it, the earth gets cold. There's a dark age, and there's like an ice age that happens. It's somewhat brief as far as the big picture is concerned, but it lasts long enough for things to start freezing up. And when the earth finally gets cold enough, the whole earth shudders. It's kind of like a little earthquake, and it's just cold. And that's when the earth knows to give birth to a new sun. And it pops out of the North Pole. There's a big hole in the middle of this planet. It's been photographed, and we've seen pictures of it. There's a lot of mythology about the North Pole, or North Hole, whatever you want to call it. And that's where the sun starts its circuit. That's where it's first born. Boom, it breaks off its umbilical cord just like a person. It's born from the earth. Like before the sun finally goes out and turns dark, all the souls that are still alive here on earth, they see what's going on. They know that their sun's about to go dark. And so they get ready for it. And it starts to get pretty cold before all that happens, So all the souls that are still alive down here, they kind of have to go. They have to do something about it because it's too cold to live on the surface. You have to go underground because it's warmer down there. There's still some warmth down inside the earth, so they go down. And that's why you'll see that all over the earth, there's all this underground stuff going on, like for days, and it's just crazy shit. There's like underground stuff all over the earth, and it's just this big mystery. Well, it's not a mystery to me. I know why it's there, because all the souls from back then, they were forced to go underground. It was too cold on top. They had to go down there to stay warm. And so when the new sun is born, it's beautiful. It's just this fucking, it's intense, you know. It breaks off its umbilical cord and activates and goes way up in the sky. Boom, life starts again. It's a beautiful thing. And that's another way you can spot an old sun, is that if you look close enough on the old sun, you can see it's got a belly button right where its umbilical cord was attached before it was born. It's pretty obvious. It's plain as day, really. I mean, it's cratered, so it's kind of hard to. At first, you might not notice it, but I mean, it's pretty easy to notice. You just look for the belly button. Look at what we call the moon. Look for it. It's got a belly button. You'll see it once you know what to look for. What's interesting is that I saw a video recently that just kind of started playing on YouTube. I didn't select the video or anything. It just started playing, and it was a video where this guy was like some science guy, and he's like, there is an alarming lack of sunspots. We haven't seen this few sunspots in a long time. And he was going off. It was concerning. He was just talking about, this is strange. There's not that many sunspots now. There's usually more or whatever. I don't know if that's a fact, but he sounded pretty, like he was pretty informed. And I thought to myself while I was watching that video, I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, take one look at the birth rate right now. It's gone way down. I don't know. I think I have some reasons, some theories as to why that is. But the thing is, the birth rate has dropped significantly as of late. And apparently the sunspots have dropped significantly. Interesting correlation. It's not a mystery to me. There's people that are like, why is that? Well, I can explain why. But, I can go on for a while about this. I mean, I've been thinking about this for a while. And it's because there's so many different cosmologies and so many different ways people have interpreted the earth over time. And I just started thinking about it. I'm like, well, all they had to work with was what I have to work with, like what anybody has to work with are observations and our science and the history and, whatever. Like, you have to start taking it all and sort of like figuring it. I don't want my cosmology to have, or our cosmology to have, these unanswered questions. I want it to all make sense. I don't want to wonder what the moon is. I want to have an answer. I don't want to wonder what the stars are. I want to have an answer. I don't want to wonder what the sun is or what the sunspots are. I want it to all make sense. I don't want to wonder what our soul is and where it came from and where it's going. I want to have answers, Now, if the earth were a flat plane, there would have to be, see, we live in a realm of cycles, like I say, like we're cycling back and forth into the sun. The sun comes around, there's clearly cycles taking place, which implies circles, which implies enclosure, limits. And I think if Earth were a level plane, the way I describe it, there would have to be a place on Earth that is just desolate, the limit, where it cannot support life. Life is not supported at that point. And it would have to be a place that's cold, it's dark most of the time, and it's just, there's no life, there's no bugs, there's no plants, there's nothing. It's just the limit. You don't go there. You don't want to go there. I mean, it's beautiful to go look at it and just be like, wow, but then you can't stay there. You don't want to live there. There would have to be a place like that on Earth. And I'd imagine with the way things are structured politically on Earth right now, there would be a place that's kind of off limits just for everybody's well-being, in the sense that, like, you don't want to go there. Nobody's ever made a country there. Nobody really, it's not established as being like part of the human society. It's like something that nobody really can live there, so it's kind of off limits, you know. And I'd imagine that there's people that are power hungry and they want to like control things, and they would keep that place off limits. It would be like a place that you wouldn't really be able to go to, or if you wanted to, it would cost a lot of money. You'd have to jump through a lot of loopholes and all kinds of red tape and bullshit and get permission, and fucking it would be heavily guarded, you know, for whatever reason. But the reason being mainly because it doesn't support life, and it's just a really dangerous place to go in that sense. You know, there would have to be a place like that on Earth if what I'm saying is true. So, And the North Pole, well, we know that's true. Or do we? Do we have an explanation for what that North Hole would be? Why would there be a big hole in the middle of the Earth? What would that be for? Well, I can explain that. Why does the moon have a belly button? Well, I can explain that. What's up now? Hey, snowman. Hey, snowman. Papa was a rolling snowman. Or no, he was a rolling snowball. And then I was a rolling snowball too. I was rolling right after him. And then my brother Paul, he's a snowball too. We were 3 snowballs rolling down that hill. Papa was a rolling snowball. Wherever you lay flat is your home. And we were just 3 snowballs just sitting there, and we weren't rolling anymore. And then some kid came along and stacked us up 3 snowballs high. We were a snowman. Put some twig arms in us and fucking little raisins for eyes, carrot for a nose. The kid goes and grabs his dad's bottle of booze, sticks it in our claw twig hand. We were rolling snowballs, but now we're just parts of a drunk snowman. Papa was a drunk snowman. Wherever you lay flat is your home. He rolled away one cold, cold day. You know he's out there rolling still, rolling down this hill. The further he rolled, the bigger he got. And then he got so big that he could not stop. Roll on, Papa. Woo. Should be a hit, huh? Alas, Dr. Bass, the shadow band Bass. Dr. Shadow Bass. What's up now? I feel like there's so much more I want to say about our cosmology, but I kind of hit a wall there. But the thing is, my point originally being, I want it to make sense. You know, I want there to be like supporting like evidence for what I'm saying. Like, I really do believe our souls are energy, like a light. I believe all the things I just said, by the way. I'm not just pulling shit out of my ass. Like, I really believe it. I feel like God is helping me put this together. Like, I feel like if I was wrong, like if I was way off, like I feel like God would do something or show me something to help straighten out my course, you know. But so far, I've just been getting like synchronistic, like events happening to me where it like ties right in with what I'm saying. Like, I recently learned about the soul actually having visible light. I'm like, well, that makes sense. I can explain that. And then I also recently learned about the lack of sunspots, and I'm like, oh, well, I can make sense of that too. I can explain that. And so I just want the cosmology to be able to answer a bunch of unanswered questions, and I should start calling it the cosmology. But yes, God exists. I believe there's a creator that created this realm, and I believe the reason this realm was created by God. And like, who made God? Well, God made God. God makes everything. So God's part of everything. And I believe God made this realm and created us for not for just entertainment. I mean, it's like kind of, but it's like it's a game. Kind of like a game in a sense where it's like you're compelled to do the right thing and to live a certain way because you'll eventually go to heaven. Otherwise, you just keep having to do it over again. You know, get recycled and come back and do it again. And so it, the cosmology sort of implies that there's purpose to all of it. It's like going to heaven, being like kind of like winning the game, sort of thing. You know, like you succeeded, you ascended, you you passed the level of the test, you leveled up. And but I don't think that God knows everything that's going to happen. Like what we're going to, God knows what's going to happen as far as the design of the realm is concerned. Like he made it this way. He knows how it operates. He knows what's going to happen. But as to like our free will that he's given us, well, that he knows that we can use that, and there's ways he can help us how we use it. Like, but it's not so much as some people might say, where it's like, oh, God made this happen. Our free will made it happen. Like God gave us that free will, and he doesn't know all the things that we're going to decide to do. It's up to us. You know, if he already knew all the things that were going to happen, there'd be no reason for him to have done this. It would just be so ridiculous, it'd be pointless. If you already knew the whole thing inside and out and everything everybody's ever going to do ever, and it'd be boring. There'd be no thrill to it. There'd be no reason. And for what it's worth, I mean, he does know what's going to happen as far as what can happen within this realm, but as far as what we all decide to do with our free will, that's the part where that's a mystery to God. He doesn't. It's like when you have a child, you know, you have an idea what might happen in their life, or you have hopes and desires, and you try to steer them and guide them, but you don't know what they're going to do. You have an idea, you know. It's kind of like that. What's up, Phil? What's up, Lev? Yeah, heaven. There's a whole sun's worth of stars up there. I'm shuddering like the earth. When it got really cold during the Dark Ages, I can explain the Dark Ages and Ice Age. I have a perfect explanation for that. And I can explain why there's people on Earth whose ancestors remember a time when there was no moon. I have a perfect explanation for that too. Anyways, I'm cold. I'm gonna go get warmed up. I love you guys. Thanks for listening to me. Without having someone to listen to me, there'd be no reason for me to do it, to say things. So thank you. I'll be back.